What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Root Roundtable. I am your host, Jay Withy. I'm the Client Success Manager here at Root. Um, I'm excited. So, this is our third installment. Last week, actually, a couple weeks ago, we talked about skip the line process, an exciting new thing that we're rolling out for prospective clients who are eager to get moving forward with Root. And so we put a new process saying, hey, if you guys are excited to move forward, you've watched our content, you've joined the academy, you're part of our Root Collective, and you don't necessarily need to speak to me or Ari or one of our client success managers. You want to get right to planning, then we have that process. So I was thinking about it and I said, what else can I help people with? What are questions? And then I thought, okay, let's go over the top questions I hear at this as the client success manager at Root. I take several calls a day and it tends to be so I wanted to go over the questions that I tend to get on a regular basis. I thought that's how we could share our time. And then if you guys have questions for me, put them in the comments and I'll get to answering those. Before that, I want to share with you some exciting stuff we've got coming down the pipeline here. Upcoming shows, okay? So next week, April 14th, big show. I'm really excited about this. I want everybody to be there. I'm going to have Brooks Palmer, who's our head of investments here at Root, on. And we understand, you guys, things have been crazy in the market. And this is a time when the market turns where people get nervous, rightfully so. So I thought, why don't we have Brooks, our head of investments, come on and talk to you guys about what we do in these times when there's market uncertainty and, obviously people get nervous. So I thought we'd go over because someone who works for Root, I get to see in the background what we're doing, right? All the exciting stuff where Brooks gets with our advisors and create strategy, right? We don't just kind of set it and forget it. We get active, we set strategy, and then we communicate with our clients. So I thought it would be cool if Brooks came on and did a talk about how we deal with these times. And also, people always ask, well, Jay, how often do I meet with my advisor? Is there strong levels of communication? And then what happens, Jay, when things like this happen in the marketplace? How do you guys approach that? So I want Brooks to come on as a team with me and let's talk about that. Let's talk about how we respond and talk to our clients and address concerns like that. I think that's going to be an incredible show. So join us there. And then 2 weeks after that, on April 28th, I've got a real special guest star, Anna Gilbert. She's incredible. She has been doing travel planning basically out of the womb since her early 20s, and she has years of experience. So I thought it'd be fun to have her come on board because obviously, we're doing retirement planning and people that are in retirement, and travel is such a big part of that. So Anna's going to come on and give us incredible pro tips on traveling. And then we're going to do some segments with her where she's going to talk about different parts of the world, right? And give her favorite spots and little, again, tips and tricks. So we'll have her on in a couple weeks. So that's what's coming down. So let's get into it, guys. Let's get into some of the questions that I see. All right. Let's go. Okay, what's the first one? Let's hold on for a second, guys. Stop sharing. I'm gonna get here. Cancel. Lost my sheet here. Okay, questions. Where are my questions? And by the way, as I'm pulling this up, if you guys have any questions for me, feel free to drop them. Thanks, Brian. I think they are going to be incredible shows. Okay, we got here. We're going to go to present view so I can show you guys all this. Got it. Okay, guys, let's go. Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay, I'm going to share with you guys. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see this. All right, so Jay, how does the engagement process work? Great question, right? So how does it work? So let's go to, I'm going to show you guys kind of our Sequoia process here. All right. How it works, guys, is that the first call is with me or Ari. I'm the client success manager, right? Now, again, we have that skip the line process, but let's just take the normal setup. So you'd have a kickoff call with me What I do is I go through the process, right? I go through the process of route. I answer all the questions you might have. And then really my job is to see if we're a good fit. Are we a good fit for you? Are you a good fit for us? At the end of that call, if we decide that's the case, then we go forward and I set you up with an advisor for the kickoff call. Okay. During the kickoff call, like I had mentioned in the previous recording, that this is a call. This isn't where we do financial planning. This is a vibe check call. This is a call for you to get to know the advisor and for the advisor to get to know you. We want you guys to be excited because you're going to get to talk to your advisor several times in the upcoming months, right? And we want the advisor to be excited about you. Besides getting to know each other, what we're going to talk about this call is purpose, right? The advisor wants to know what the next 5, 10, 15 years look like for you guys. What is 30 years, right? What does legacy look like? All of these things. So that's the kickoff call. Then the next part of the process, the engagement, is after the kickoff call, if all parties agree that this is a good fit and we want to move forward, right? You want to move forward with an advisor through the Sequoia process, then we would say we open and transfer accounts. Well, what does that mean? That means we move you to one of our um, custodians, which is we use Schwab or Altruist, right? Now, does that mean we are liquidating your portfolio? No, we're just moving custodians, right? And that's the next part. So the expectation, you guys, in the engagement process is that before we get to income and investments, that you would be under management. Okay. And then the next part of the engagement is the Sequoia process, these 4 strategy calls. Sometimes it can be as much as 6, depending on how complex the situation is, right? So we have this call, and then after that, you will have a cadence set up with your advisor. You're always going to have a spring and fall review, but then based off what's going on in your particular situation, there might be more calls to follow. Okay. So that is question number 1. What is question number 2? What are your fees and how do you charge? Okay, great question. So I want to go here, share this tab. Okay. So, you guys, we have a tiered fee structure. Okay. Assets under management. So, we bill you on investable assets. For example, brokerage accounts, IRAs, things like that. We can't bill on things like real estate or crypto, even though we consider that as your portfolio and we advise on those things, right? So, how it breaks down on this tiered structure is the first million is at 1%, the second million is at 0.75%. So, I use a really easy example is like if you take our $2 million minimum, that would be a blend of 0.88%. Okay. And how we do that is we pull it. So first off, that's an annual fee that we pull monthly from your accounts. And we actually pull them proportionally from each of your investment accounts. So let's say you have 50% of your money is in a Roth IRA and 50% of your money is in a traditional IRA. We pull proportionally out of there. Okay. And then one thing I really like to highlight on all my calls, you guys, and this is one way we really show and act as a fiduciary, is that we don't get paid through any type of commissions, kickbacks, or undisclosed revenue sources. This is really important to us. We're really passionate about this in full transparency. And what that really means is we are not going to put you guys in products that financially motivate us, right? That's a conflict of interest. So, on one side, that means we're not going to try to put you guys into products such as annuities or whole life products. On the other side, let's take investment tools such as funds. We're trying to put you in low cost, effective tools, right? We are not trying to put you in funds that financially motivate us through kickbacks or front load charges or really high net expense ratios. We're trying to avoid things like that. Okay, so let's go to the next question here. What do we got? Do we have a long-term commitment? What's our contract? People always wonder that. Hey, Jay, how long am I stuck for if I'm unhappy? Great question. So again, we believe in value, right? It's so important that you guys as clients feel that the value we provide greatly outweighs the cost of doing business with us. And we believe if there's a day, maybe it's a year down the road, maybe it's 4 years down the road where you don't feel that, then you should leave and we will help you transfer assets out. So long answer short, short answer long, it's basically month to month, right? So what we say is if you ever feel that value's not there, then we encourage you guys to break up with us and we'll help you and we'll prorate the contract. All right? Next question. Okay. How do you handle taxes, tax planning? Great question, okay? Because a lot of people come to us for tax planning situations. So I want to go back to our Sequoia process, okay? And let's look at the tax planning. So, how I talk about this, you guys, is that our philosophy on tax planning is to save our clients the most amount of money as legally possible on taxes over your lifespan. We do that by proactively planning, right? We say, okay, what's happening in 2025? Yes, but what's happening in 2026, 2027? If we proactively plan, we can mitigate any unnecessary spending. For example, a big concern of people is RMDs, right? Oh my gosh, Jade, the RMDs, I'm so worried about them. They're going to crush us. They're going to put us in this tax bracket that we don't want to be in. Of course, I totally get that. So, how can we plan for that, right? Maybe we do Roth conversions. There's a whole host of different strategies we can deploy versus, say, a CPA who's always looking in the rears, right? A CPA is saying, hey guys, what'd you do last year? Let me get the numbers. Let me crunch them, see if I can write anything off and save you there. Well, that's a very reactive solution and it's pretty limiting, right? So that's really how we do it. We do it by proactively planning. Now, just disclosure, you guys, just so you know, because some people do ask, Jay, do you actually do the tax filing? No, we don't do tax filing. So we always say if you have a CPA or tax preparer, or if you do it yourself, you would keep that in place because we don't file taxes. Okay. All right. What is another one? Oh, here's a good one. Okay. Jay, can you help us with long term care planning and health insurance? Okay, great question. So, again, going back, this would be covered under our security call, right? So, the idea here, you guys, is in the security call, we want to bring out that master life checklist and we want to make sure all of our ducks are in a row. Okay. So, the first thing we're going to talk about is estate planning, which we can help with, right? After we make sure estate planning is checked off the box, then we're going to go do an insurance review. All right. So we're going to look at all your policies and say, all right, do we have adequate coverage over here? I always use this example. I live in LA. We got ravaged by fires. I need to call my State Farm agent to make sure I have fire coverage. All right. Do we have too much coverage? Okay. A lot of people say, Jay, I was sold these whole life insurance policies. I think I have too much life insurance coverage at this point. Okay, let's look at that. And then the two big things we talk about is long-term care and health insurance. So long-term care is really interesting. When I was in my 20s, I started in the insurance business. And it was about that time when long-term care policies, the coverage was really declining, where it was making because there used to be really strong policy limits back in the day, but now not so much. So we'll support either way and we'll do the analysis on both way because there are policies out there that make people feel comfortable. But Ari did a great, I'm going to show right here, this tab right here. Ari did a great thing about everything he needs to do about long-term care because we actually have strategies to self-fund for long-term care. So yes, that's part of the analysis. And then the other thing I would say we talk about is, of course, health insurance. Health insurance, unfortunately, is one of the biggest reasons people avoid retiring, right? People say, look, I'm just going to wait till I'm Medicare eligible because healthcare is going to crush us, right? And totally understandable. So why don't we do this? Why don't we run the analysis on it? Because usually, let's say you leave your job before 65. There's basically three options. You can go on Cobra, you can go to the ACA, or you can go private placement. So we'll run the analysis on that. We partner with an incredible company called Move Health. We've had them on our live shows before, so they can run deeper analysis and they can actually place policies. So, guys, again, yes, long-term care, health insurance, those are things we'll do analysis on and help guide you guys through the process. Okay. Now let's go back to our questions here. I'm going to see what is our next one. Share questions. Okay, we're sharing. What's the next one here? Okay. What does the personalized plan, so our process, include? Good question. Okay. People are basically saying, look, I'm getting this from my current advisor. What are you guys going to do? So it really goes back to the Sequoia process, right? Again, traditional advisors, you guys, are really focused on one bucket, which is investments, right? What we're saying at Root is that, look, that's a fine model. When you're young, acquiring, you're accruing money and you're trying to make it grow. Of course, we want to make our money grow. So it's a very important bucket. But at this phase, the people we're working with who are looking into retiring or who are in retirement, they realize there's just more moving pieces to the puzzle, right? So they want more help. They want higher touch services. So what we did when we built Root and the platform is said, look, yes, we're going to handle investments, but what we're also going to do is the income planning. We're going to do investment planning, we're going to do tax planning, and then we're going to do the security, which includes estate planning and the insurance review. So there's a whole host of services here that we include besides just investment planning. And that's for us really where the value is. Okay. All right. Let's go back. Share this tab. Okay. Who will we be working with? How do you match make? Okay. I get this question probably every call, right? Jay, how are you gonna set me up with someone? Okay, matchmaking starts here. The first thing I'm listening for is if I need a tactician, a specialist, right? So, for example, we get clients that say, "Hey, Jay, I'm actually selling my business and I need help with exit planning." Okay, boom, boom, boom. I just heard that. So we have a couple advisors that are SEPA certified. Hey, Jay, I'm really charitably inclined. I want to set up donor funds. That's really important to me. Okay, we have advisors here that are specialists in that. We have advisors like Brandon Woods who are certified kingdom advisors, right? So for people that want to work with Christian based advisors, we have that as well. So I'm looking for that. The next thing I'll look for is personal preference, right? Do you want to work with a male advisor, a female advisor, religious affinities, West Coast, East Coast, things like that. Um, and so, granted, I tell people I'm very biased because I work here and I love our advisors. We have the best advisors in the world. They're all incredible, dynamic personalities. And I'll tell you this, the one thing I love about our advisors is they're very passionate, right? They're very passionate and it takes a special someone to be able to quarterback all this strategy. And one of our prerequisites, just so you know, is that when we deal with couples, right, we say that both spouses have to be involved. And usually that can be tricky because one spouse might have been the captain of the finances and the other one has really been on the sideline. So some spouses are nervous to be on these calls because they think, oh, it's going to go over my head. I won't be able to understand. It's all this finance jargon. Totally get it. Right. But I tell people, I'm like, this isn't just about investments. This is about your life. Right. We're talking about your hopes, dreams, aspirations, and how we can help you achieve that. Now, back to the part of the advisors. What I love about our advisors, I'm going to tell you guys, is their ability to synthesize what can be considered complicated subjects, right? Like we have investment calls, but break them down into these digestible pieces of content that we can understand in layman's terms. And you can feel the passion and the care they have about that. So just wanted to talk to you guys about that. But really, you know, any advisor I put you with, you're going to be happy. They're all great fits. All right, let's go to the next one here. What is your investment philosophy? Okay, this is a big one, you guys. This is a big one. Probably one of the top questions and one of the buckets that we get asked a lot because not only do we get people that have come from traditional advisors, but we have a lot of people that have done it themselves. So they're very curious about this. This is how I talk about it. Now, if you want more detailed info, look on Ari's YouTube channel. He had Brooks Palmer, our head of investments, on a couple weeks ago. He talked about our philosophy, and he can break it down a lot better than I can. But this is what I can say. Our philosophy is this: we are dealing with people that are trying to retire or who are in retirement, right? So we are trying to reduce risk and volatility. That's what I would say, right? So we use a more safe passive investment strategy. How we break it down is this: we'll talk to our clients and say, look, we talk about these two buckets. The first bucket, which is your smaller bucket, that's your root reserves, right? I call this the break glass in case of emergency bucket. So the advisor will say, client, what would it take for you to live off for 5 years? Let's say it's 100 grand per year. So that's 500 grand total for 5 years. So we'll put that in root reserves in the form of fixed income assets and bonds. Okay. And if things happen like the markets right now, it's a little volatile, we need to pay some bills off, we'll pull from the root reserves instead of our second bucket, which is our big bucket, our growth bucket. Now, what I tell everyone, every firm has a different investment philosophy on the growth, right? Um, but because of who we're working with and our philosophy, we're not the firm that's going to say, hey guys, you know what you need to do? We're going to get you in a bunch of options trading, or we've got a crypto strategy that's going to take you to the moon, right? The other thing we don't do, like some firms do, is say, hey, we're going to put you in 50 different stock positions to spread you out over the S&P 500. That's not really what we do. We use more tried and true methods like ETFs and index funds. Now, that being said, you can hear Ari talk about it, James talk about it. We do not have any cookie cutter approach where we say, hey, clients, we're going to put you in a 60-40 split and we only use these two funds and we do it for everyone. That's not how we do it, right? Everybody comes to us with a different portfolio. Everybody comes to us at a different stage of life with a different risk profile and what they want to accomplish, right? So we create a bespoke plan for each client. Okay. So that's how we do it. But I really encourage you to watch the live video with Brooks Palmer going over it. And he's going to be on the show next week to discuss more. So I encourage you to be on that one as well. All right. What's another call? What's another question? How often do I meet with my advisor? Um, so great question. Okay, I've got dogs in the background. How often do I meet with my advisor? All right. So obviously we know when we're doing the Sequoia process, you're going to meet with your advisor 4 to 6 times in the first couple months, right? So you get to know them very intimately, which is great. So I always say your advisor becomes part advisor, part life coach, part family member. All right. So what happens after the Sequoia process, Jay? How often do I meet then? Well, like I said earlier, we have those two set in stone meetings. We have our spring review, we have our fall review. Those are non-negotiables. But really, there's different things that set up the cadence. So I always say like tax planning, right? Because we're always proactively planning for tax planning. So there might be things that we see coming down in the pipeline for 2026. Like we know that our client is going to retire in 2026. Okay, that might set up another meeting, right? We might need to talk about withdrawal strategy and what in the income planning and all the things that we're going to do. Um, then there's things that pop up in life. Um, like I use this example. We went to Maui for Christmas. My dad took us over there. It was beautiful for his 75th birthday. What ends up happening in magical places like that? All right. People start running their mouth. Like my dad said, hey, do you guys think we could make something happen over here? Do you think we could all buy a condo over here? All right. So we get that life events happen like that. And that's where you would call your advisor. We'd set up a meeting. And then again, what I love, not to go back to this and beat a dead horse, but our Sequoia process is so special because this is the lens that your advisor looks through to solve problems for, right? They're saying, okay, everything has a cause and effect. So I would say, look, let's think about that place in Maui. All right. If we get that place, does it how does it in how does it impact our cash flow planning? Do we have to sell some of our investments off to buy that place? What are the pros and cons to the taxes of buying a vacation home? And then what insurances do we need? How much do those cost? The idea is that you meet with your advisor to go through this process to make the most educated, well-informed decisions as possible. That's what you're paying for. That's the value, right? So that's really important to me to stress. Okay. Let's go. That's actually it. Okay, I think I got through all the questions. Let's see if we have any here. Let me see here, both upcoming. I think we had portion. hold on, guys. I'm trying to look through the comments here. I want to see if I can answer her. Okay. What do you say here? Jill said, "Do you have goals to have advisors in all regions of the US?" Great question. In a perfect world, yes, but it's a yes and a no. We are most focused. We're a virtual company, first off, right? We are most focused on finding the best top tier advisors in the world, period. Stop. And wherever they come from, that doesn't matter in the sense of like, if for some reason they are all coming from Omaha, Nebraska, then that's what it is, right? We have advisors all over the place. So just so you guys know, our headquarters, yes, are in San Diego. A lot of people think we're only California based, but we have advisors in California. We have a big hub in Denver, in Texas, in the Carolinas, in Florida, in um, Virginia. We have them in Dallas, Texas, all of these places, right? And it's great to have coverage all over the United States, but really the most important thing to us is finding those best advisors. So we really don't care where they come from. We just got to make sure they're top quality. Thank you for that question. Let's see here. Just okay. Dale, let's see what Dale say. You mentioned pulling these fees proportionally, but given the tax advantage of pulling from traditional versus Roth, are you flexible on that dollar from traditional value? Yeah. So this is a great question Dale has, right? So the concept is when you pull from pre-tax accounts, right? You're technically saving money because you're not paying tax on that. Now, to answer your question, and your advisor can answer in more depth, but basically you have to pull proportionally. So, um, you know, if you can't pull more from your pre-tax account, right? Again, it has to do with the proportionality of it. So it has to be even there. Of course, if everybody wishes they could pull all from their pre-tax accounts to save that, but that is not the case. All right. Oh, Brian had a question. How do you decide between the two custodians? Okay, good question. You decide. So as a client, you decide if you want to deal with Schwab or Altruist. Now, I'll tell you, as a firm, we used to offer more relationships with custodians, but there's just so many out there, right? There's just so many. Everybody's a custodian. So what we did is we narrowed it down to two of the strongest we find to be out there. So Schwab is obviously the biggest name in the business, I would say, right? So a lot of people already have accounts with Schwab, so that's easy. They'll stay with Schwab. And then Altruist is a very unique one because they're a pure custodian, right? They don't sell products. There's a good video on our website that you can see with James and the CEO of Altruist. Very unique one, but we don't care, right? We're not financially motivated by either one of them. You don't have to pay transfer fees to work with either one of them. So they're both great options. And that's one of those situations in the kickoff call, or yeah, probably in the kickoff call. If you had any questions about them, you wanted to see their platform, that's where our advisors could help you out. Maybe kind of give you their versions of pros and cons to each one of them. Let's see. That's really it, guys. So that's all the questions we had. Wanted to thank you guys for joining. Please, follow us on our channels. You can send me an email at j.withy@rootfinancialpartners.com. You can find me in the collective as well. If you haven't joined the collective, join the collective. It's a great community. It's free for people that are interested in finance, people who are clients, anybody. With everybody's welcome. There's great conversations happening in there. And then again, next week, you guys come on. Brooks Palmer, our head investments, is going to come on, and he's just a wealth of knowledge, and I can't wait to hear him talk and go over stuff. So bring your questions for Brooks. He'll be here. Excited about that. And yeah, until next week, see you guys.